Hi, welcome to episode 461 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I also have an Etsy shop called the Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarn and knitting patterns. And I place each and every episode's show notes on my website, which is thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where you can find all the things that I talk about in today's podcast. So hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. It is Monday, February 12th, and it is a sunny, beautiful day out. It's a little chilly this week. It's going to be in the 40s and 50s, so not wintry cold, but a little bit chilly. I'm still enjoying my wool sweaters. Today I am wearing my handspun weekender. The pattern is by Andrea Mowry, who is Drea Renee Knits, and I knit this late last year, and I guess I knit it for my November sweater. And I absolutely love it, and have been living in it all winter long. So I hope that you are doing well. I had a pretty crafty week. I have some knitting, some spinning, and a little bit of sewing to show you this week. So I'm trying to think what else I can tell you. The city is on a high. I do not really pay attention to football, but the Super Bowl was last night. And the Kansas City Chiefs won. They beat the San Francisco 49ers by a touchdown in the last few seconds of the first overtime period. So it was kind of a big deal. Excuse me. I don't really watch sports, but it was kind of a big deal. And so everybody has been talking about it today. And the city's going to close down on Wednesday, and there's going to be a parade. And of course, this week is also a lot of things. Tomorrow is Fat Tuesday. Wednesday is Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day, and so there's lots of stuff going on in the world, but here I sit kind of on a quiet Monday getting caught up on some work tasks and digging into another week. So let's get started. Today I decided to drink my Valentine's tea blend. I bought this from Simpson and Vale a few years ago, but it looks like they still have it available. This is a blend of black tea, cacao nibs, hibiscus flowers, chocolate flavor, raspberry pieces, and natural pomegranate flavor. So it is nice, a little bit fruity, very dark, and I can smell the chocolate and the raspberry, and it's a really just lovely tea, and I am drinking that today in my Anna Wright mug. She is a Scottish potter, and these are sheep in all kinds of hand knits, and it makes me laugh. So that is what I'm drinking today. Hopefully it will get me through my afternoon. It's about 1 o'clock here. So let's talk about all the things that I knit this week. I am working on 3 major projects, and you may be getting tired of seeing them, but you're going to have to see them for another week or two. The first, well, this one may be a little bit longer. The first is I worked on more chicken feathers. This brings me up to 17 total. I'm looking for 30, and then we're going to test it out and see how many more we need after that. I'm afraid I'm probably going to need more after that, although I will probably do some other pieces in addition to feather stacks. So these are the little feather stacks that I've been creating. I haven't had a chance to block these yet. That's what I'm going to do right after we talk. But I did a little 3 stack, and then I also did a slightly bigger 4 stack. These are for my chicken with the City Girl Farm. I work with them to make sculptural pieces. The bodies are wood and brass, and then we cover them in wool that has either been hand spun, hand knitted, or felted. And I spin and knit for them, and this is for mine. If you work there long enough and on a frequent enough basis, you get a reward chicken. And so basically I am coming up with what's going to go on my chicken, and then someone else will help me stitch it up, and I do not have to work on the body myself. The body is manufactured in various steps, and then, or made in various steps, I should say, and then most of what I concentrate on for them is I build the outer coverings, and then they sew them on, and I'm one of a whole team that does this, but so I am working on my own. I am spinning enchilada night, which is fiber from the Hello yarn, and then I'm combining it with some Shetland that I purchased from Ross Family Farm. And I purchased that at Plyaway years ago and never turned it into a sweater for myself, so I decided to use it for this. And it's just the right neutral so that I can make all these fun pinstriped feather bits. So I have 2 more to add to that. Those will need to get washed and blocked, and then eventually I'm going to take a picture of all the ones I have. I'm getting ready to spin some more singles, and I'm on my last few skeins of yarn, so we'll just have to see how this works, whether I need to order a little bit more, what I'm going to do. This was like a single batch that I ordered ages ago, and so it won't be exactly the same, but I guess we'll see what happens. So, excuse me. Spring, it's been very springy, and I think we're starting to get some pollen and lots of wind, and my nose is running. So let's talk about the other 2 projects that I am working on. The first one, I think I showed you for the first time last week, and that was I decided to knit a sweater for my mom for her birthday. Her birthday is in very early March, so I need to be finishing this up, but I am making really good progress. This is a focus project for me, and I am working on a little knitted top / tee, and I am doing so in marionated yarns, and I had this, I showed this last week in the Princess Quail Shaded Gradient set. It's 6 skeins of superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon in a fingering weight, so it's about 800 yards, and it was in shades of pink. So I'll show you what I have so far, and then I'll show you the other shades. So like I said, I've actually gotten pretty far. Luckily, given the time range, my mom actually is an extra small. She's always been really tiny. She's only 5'2", and so I am knitting an extra small top for her, which means it's going by like lightning. So I am knitting the Maven top by Maven Crafted, and there is a link in the show notes to the website where you can purchase the pattern. It is also available on Ravelry, and it is a simple top-down yoke with regular yoke increases shaped tee, and so you can see here that this is what I have so far. I went into the second color before I took off for the sleeves, and then I have gone into the third color, and now I am just about ready to start my fourth color. So this is what I have so far in terms of the gradient, and I still have 3 more colors to add, although I don't know how much of the 6th color I will add. So these are like my 3 other gradient colors that are going to go on the bottom here. So they just keep getting darker and darker and darker pink, and my guess is I will only get into this one just a little bit, enough for kind of the bottom and the hem, and I have decided to also use this one for the pattern actually calls for an I-cord at the sleeves, but I made one of these for myself, and I decided to do the 1x1 ribbing, so I'm going to do the same thing here at the edge. I will tell you, I actually tried to do it in the second color or the third color, and I didn't like the way it was finishing. They were just kind of too close and not they didn't stand out enough, so I think I'm going to like the high contrast there. I didn't think I was going to, but I think I am. I hope I am. So this is where I'm currently at. I'm probably, I am a chunk of the way down the body. I'm probably maybe 5, 6, well, about 5 inches down the body. The pattern calls for this to be a little bit cropped, and my mom is not a cropped sweater girl, so I'm going to knit it a little bit longer, but that is fine. The size that I'm knitting calls for 650 yards, and I have 800 yards, so I am hoping that, I should have plenty to lengthen it just a little bit, so she will like it. So far I'm knitting most of what I got. This one I guessed really well, and I didn't have too much left on color 1. On color 2 I guessed a little bit less well. Basically I'm trying to guess where to start the fade in with the next color in the bunch, so I'm just kind of trying to like look at it and guess where I should start the next one so that I can kind of minimize what I have left over. And so I am getting to that point. Let's see, did I drop it? No, where's it? Where is it? Oh no, it's still in here. Sorry, I'm losing myself. So I have this much left of color 3, so it's probably almost time to start color 4, which I have wound. And so I will be starting that shortly. And so, like I said, I'm trying to kind of minimize what I have left, but also not run out mid-round, because that's a total bummer. And any of these leftovers I will probably go ahead and throw into my Christmas blanket or into a leftover crochet blanket that I have going. So it's not a problem for me to have a little bit left over. I'm just trying to use most of what I can so that I can get although I would love to get the whole gradient in. So that's kind of where I'm going, and then I'll just have 2 colors left, and so that is my thing. I hope I will have this most of the way done by the time we talk next, mostly because I will need to wash it and block it and then mail it, and my hope is that it gets there in time. But today is only the 12th, so honestly, the 19th, if I'm not quite done, as long as I kind of finish it that week and wash it and block it, I should be good. So that is what I'm working on. Again, Maven Tea, I haven't made any modifications. I will make the modifications on the sleeves, and then I'll make it a little bit longer. Otherwise, I'm knitting the pattern as written. It is a well-written pattern. It fits really nicely. I love mine, and I wear the heck out of it, particularly over the summer when it's warm. I did mine in a Zen Yarn Garden gradient yarn cake, and I kind of want to buy another one to do another one. But I am enjoying this. I will say, I have mixed feelings about kind of the fading into the gradient. I am fading it using, I think, kind of what Andrea Mowry uses for her fade cardigan. So kind of varying one row, then 2 rows, then 1, then 1, then 2, then 1. Just kind of to like fade it into the next color. And I will say that like close up, it's not as pleasing because particularly in stockinette, the colors don't meld as well. On the Comfort Fade cardigan, you do it in, the outside is in reverse stockinette, so it really looks kind of speckly as it goes into those things. And I don't love kind of the harsh color lines. That said, when I hold it back to where you just see it on me, you don't really see all of those lines, and you just kind of see the fade in the gradient. So I think it will be okay, even though it's not 100% pleasing me. And I was a little afraid at how small this looks, particularly compared to me. It looks tiny, but it will, this is superwash and it will grow. And I tried the, I pulled on the neck and it's got a lot of give here. It will fit over my head. I won't actually probably try on the sweater because I am between a medium and a large usually. And so I don't want to stretch it out. But that said, once I wash it and block it, it will stretch and I think it will fit my mom fine. So that is that one, and I should have no problem finishing that by the end of the month. I've been spending most of my time in the evenings working on that, just because, like I said, that one is kind of time limited, and I would like to get it done and off to her. So the second project that I'm working on is kind of a fix it, finish it, or frog it February. I frogged the sweater and now I am working on fixing it / finishing it. I had previously knit this yarn into a different sweater and I didn't wear the sweater, so I wanted to reclaim the yarn and do something different with it. So what I am doing is I am using, it's a Juniper Moon Bud, and I've talked about this. It is a bulky weight cotton that's basically a boucle yarn. It is a thicker strand of fiber applied with a thinner strand of string, and this is in the colorway Primrose, and so it is this dark, luscious, lovely pink. And last week when we talked, I don't think I was quite to the sleeve separation, or maybe I had just gotten there. I cannot remember. So I got to the sleeve separation and I basically finished the ball of yarn that I was on, and so I've worked a couple inches below the sleeve separation, and then what I decided I wanted to do was pick up and work on the sleeves. So I didn't get a lot of work done, but I did a couple inches. I mean, bulky yarn does knit up awfully fast. So I knit a couple inches, and this is what this is looking like. I guess I didn't talk about what I am making. So I am making the Ramona Cardigan by Elizabeth Smith, who is also known as Elizabeth Smith Knits, and the pattern is available via her website, not via Ravelry. I mean, you can get it on Ravelry, but it's also available via her website, so there is a link in the show notes about that. And it is just a top-down raglan cardie. It's got a few points of interest, like it's got this garter stitch detail in between the raglan shaping, and then it will have some fun ribbing that is also kind of, it's kind of thick and it's kind of pronounced. It might be a 3x1. I haven't looked, but it's definitely, it's not just your standard 2x2 rib. But basically it is sorry, not an oversized. It is a cozy cardigan, and it is a cropped cardigan, and then either 3/4 or full-length sleeves. I haven't actually looked yet. I just kind of figured out how many to pick up and where I was decreasing to. They're not straight sleeves. They are kind of fitted. And the cardigan does look kind of fitted, although it is bulky, so it's not it's not really tiny, but it is tailored, is what I should say. And so I am working on that. I am currently 2 full and another half skein of yarn in. I had 7 for this project that I pulled out, and then I was afraid I might need a little bit more based on the requirements for the project. The project calls for, well, each skein is 109 yards, and so I was going to be a little bit short. I think my size calls for either 800 or 900, and so I ordered an extra skein or 2 just to be sure that I had what I needed. I don't know if I'll need them. They do appear to match fairly well. I haven't like gone outside in the sun and really done a whole thing, and I will work them in as I work down at the body probably, but they do appear to match because it's a pretty flat color. It's not a semi-solid, or it doesn't look like it's kettle dyed, and so they appear to match pretty well, and I think I'm gonna be okay. So that is what I'm working on. I do not know if I will finish this in February. I would love to, because I sort of made that a February goal, but then I added my mom's sweater in. So I'm not gonna worry about it too much, and if it doesn't quite happen, that's okay. I'm just gonna keep working on this, and hopefully I will have a lovely cardigan for spring to enjoy. We are supposed to get a little bit more winter weather later this week, so we're not quite done with winter weather yet, and so a spring cardigan will be lovely and is still motivational, or should I say aspirational, for weather to come. So let's take a deep breath, a sip of tea, and let's move on to spinning. So this week I finished up a spin that was on the wheel the last time we talked. I think I was halfway done, and so I finished the second half and then I plied it, and that is a Peck on the cheek, and it reads very yellow and blue. It's actually got some pastel colors. You can see there's some pink in there, and then there's a little bit of like a dark navy, but it's lots of yellows and greens and turquoises, and then the navy blue, and then little bits of other pastel colors, a little bit of pink, and maybe just an ever so slight a little bit of purple, but you can definitely see bits and pieces in there. It is a nice springy colorway. It is called Peck on the Cheek, and it was a Hello Yarn fiber, and it is rambouillet, which means it is going to puff up. So, sorry, there's a truck in my driveway that I can see out of the corner of my eye because my window's right here. It looks like it's an Amazon truck, so it's probably not that exciting. Anyway, so this is the finished skein. I need to wash it and then do a final measurement. Sorry, I'm finding fuzz and other things. Wash it and do a final measurement before this will go up into the shop. It is not superwash, but it would be lovely for accessories, or a pair of socks, or actually I think it would be really sweet as something for a baby. It's not heavily pink, so there's so much green and blue and whatnot, but I think it would be lovely for a little baby. Although it would have to be someone who knows how to care for wool, because again, this is not superwash, so it would have to be hand washed. So that is done and will go up in the shop sometime in the next few days after I wash it and measure it. I am starting on a new spin this week, and here it is. And I showed it last week, and then I didn't get to it. I apologize for the crinkling. This is the BFL and Silk from Melanated Boho Bay, and it is also kind of springy colors, green and pink and peach and gold, and I am very excited about this one, and so I will get this one started on the wheel this week. I probably won't have it done by the time we next talk, because at best I would probably only have the single spun and not have it plied, but I'm excited about it and can't wait to get it on the wheel. So that brings me to the final topic, and I will just talk very, very briefly about some sewing that I did this weekend. So I am sort of, for those of you who are new to the podcast, I am new to a sewing journey, and I do have to say it's really kind of humbling trying a new craft. I have been knitting. My grandmother taught me to knit when I was 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere around there. And I have been seriously knitting since my early 20s, and I am in my mid 40s now. So really, it's been 20 years of lots and lots of knitting, and knitting shop samples, and then becoming a tech editor, and really kind of honing the craft of knitting. I have also now been spinning for, I started spinning in 2010, so I've been spinning for 14 years, which means I have not done, I will say I have not delved as deeply into spinning as I have into knitting, in the sense that my technical knowledge on spinning is not great. I'm much more of an intuitive spinner, and I sort of spin by feel. I look at classes by someone like J.C. Boggs Faulkner, who runs Ply Magazine and the Ply Spinning Guild now, and she is an impressively technical spinner. She talks about the angle of twist and, you know, counting how many twists you're putting in per inch and all of those things, and part of me would love to be a technical spinner, but I am not. But my point is that at this point I have been knitting and spinning for a very long time. And so it takes quite a bit to intimidate me, and also I won't say I don't get frustrated with my knitting or spinning, because I do. That happens to everyone, no matter how long you've been doing it. It doesn't mean that I don't learn new things, because I do learn new things all of the time, or better ways to do things that I have done differently in the past. That said, it's really humbling to be starting a new craft and really not having the knowledge that I need, and then also not being able to execute like I would like to execute. I mean, I have the hardest time sewing a straight line. Like, you wouldn't think it would be that hard because it looks very easy, but it's really hard to sew a straight line. I mean, and I have guides on my machine. I have the washi tape put down. I have like the metal guide. I have my needle adjusted. I figured out where my 1/4 inch seam and marking should be on the machine, but it is still really hard to sew a straight line, and really hard to get all of your corners to match up perfectly and things like that. And I also would say that I tend to be, in my own personal knitting, I tend to be a less technical knitter. Like, if I end up with an extra stitch at the end of the row and it's really not supposed to be there, I'll often knit 2 together. Or if I'm missing 1 stitch, I might make 1. And obviously that doesn't always work if you're working in lace or other things, but like, I am not a perfectionist when it comes to that. And sewing, you really have to be a lot more precise. Anyway, all that is to say that I'm working on piecing together some quilts. I had pieced together my first quilt, and actually you can see it right behind me. I got it back last week from the Long Armor, and it is lovely. And I have since done a couple more things, and one of the things that I have done, you can actually see it up on the top right next to Norman, my gnome, it's folded, but that is my Halloween quilt. And I have pieced the top of the Halloween quilt, and I decided I wanted to make a wall quilt, so it's roughly 36 by 36. I may not have gotten my seams exactly correct. I did try and get all of my corner seams to match, and for the most part, I had success there, but it might be 35-ish if my seams were just a little bit off, because I think I tend to sew just a little bit more than 1/4 inch seam. Anyway, it is time to start thinking about quilting it, and I decided that I wanted to quilt it on my own sewing machine. And there are multiple ways to quilt something. It's very complicated because quilting uses the word quilting in the process. So you are sewing a quilt, which means you are sewing a top. You are piecing together the top part of your quilt, the part that will be available for everyone to see. And then you are actually quilting it, which means you are taking the top and some batting and some backing, and you are sandwiching them together, and then you are sewing through all of those layers to create kind of a puffy, quilted looking quilt. I know, it's all the word quilt. That's why it's really so complicated. Anyway, so I decided that what I wanted to do was that I wanted to quilt my own quilt this time. And so I was trying to decide the method that I wanted to use to quilt. And there are lots of different ways that you can do it. You can quilt in straight lines. So for instance, you can quilt down the edges or quilt along your seams and do what's called stitch in the ditch. You can quilt next to your seams. You can quilt on the diagonals so that if you have blocks, you can go from point to point. I think I talked a little bit about this last week. And what I decided I wanted to try doing was called free motion quilting, which is basically where you create patterns by moving your quilt around under the needle, and you can create whatever kinds of patterns you want to create. And so this weekend I sat down and I tried to do that. And what I did is I took 2 fat quarters, which is just a cut of fabric. It's roughly 18 inches by 22 inches, and they're fun. They're lots of fun to buy, and they're inexpensive. And so I had some leftovers from another project that I had done. So what I did is I took 2 pieces of fabric. So I took this really pretty batik fabric that it's got like a color change. I really like it. But I took this batik fabric on the front, and then I took another batik on the back. So this is just another pattern on the back. And then you can see that I sandwiched between them some thin batting. So this is just cotton, and it might have some poly in it. It's cotton poly batting. I just sandwiched them together, and what I did is I loosely pinned them. When I do my quilt, I will secure it more evenly. This was really just supposed to be a practice piece. And then what I tried to do was I tried to stitch shapes all around, and what I was going for was sort of a cross between what they call a meander, which is this, that just kind of swirls and loops and runs around in all kinds of weird shapes. And then I also did kind of a loop where I crossed over a little bit. And so I did a little bit of all of those, and you can see kind of I did it on the front, and I tried to go close to the edge in some of mine. And you can see I got stuck sometimes, or I turned sharply, and I would like to eliminate those sharp turns ultimately. But what I did is I just kind of quilted almost all of this piece together. So you can see that's what I did, and you might actually be able to see it more on the back because of the contrast. So you can see it's just lots of loops and swirls. There you go. You can see what I did. Now you can notice this part right here that is not quilted, and that's because I ran out of bobbin thread partway through. Quilting like this takes a lot of bobbin thread, and so I missed this section. And the other thing that you can see here is that it's a little bit crinkly on the back. That's because I didn't secure my layers appropriately, and I knew that I didn't secure them appropriately. So the fabric is just a little bit wrinkly and not even. When I actually work on the final quilt, I will pin them out and make sure to pin them much more frequently so that everything stays nice and aligned, because things do slip a little bit as you move the quilt around, as you're moving it around under the foot. And so, yeah. But that is what I did this weekend. I am reasonably pleased with it, and I will say that by the time I got to the second half, which is this half, things looked even better. They're more rounded and more even, and I had fewer spots where I had to like stop in a corner and turn to get out of something. So you can see, and I still did a lot of loop-de-loops and then just weird shapes. You can still see there's some there where I had a little trouble. But so that is what I worked on this weekend, and that has given me the confidence I need, I think. I don't know if I'm going to do another one. I might do another one this weekend, I might not. And I think that has given me the confidence that I need to then go ahead and work on the real quilt. And honestly, if this were, and I may finish this piece anyway, I haven't decided. If this were a real finished piece, what I would do is I would trim the backing and the little edges of the batting, and I would trim it down to a, well, this would be a rectangular size, real close, and then I would apply binding and wrap it over the edging. So, and I may do that. I may just do this like as a hot pad on the table, or as a little, I don't know, it's not really placemat size. It's a little big for placemat size. I haven't really decided. I could cut it into 4 and make it into like pot holders or trivets like for the table. I haven't really decided. Like I said, this was just kind of a practice piece to see what it took, and to see if it was something that I thought I could get used to enough to want to actually do a quilt that way. And I have to say it was both easier and harder than I expected. It was harder to keep things moving smoothly, and to keep even tension between my stitches. You can see there were points at which I moved the quilt more frequently, or I kind of pulled the quilt through more frequently, which made larger stitches, and then points where I pulled the quilt through more slowly, which made smaller stitches. There were the points at which I kind of wasn't quite fluid in what I was doing. But honestly, I had this piece done in about 20 minutes, and it really wasn't that hard. I will take more breaks and move more slowly on my finished piece. Again, this was just, I was trying to just test out and see what I could do. So I think that's it for this week. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you're having a lovely week full of crafting. And I will say, until I see you next time, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, maybe a little sewing. I don't know. I'll see you next time. Bye.